You ever notice how connected Ichigo and Kenpachi are? Now that we've seen Demon Zaraki in action in Horn of Salvation Ichigo, we can zero in on some of the hidden details that have kept these two connected.
Do you want to fight? Do you want to win?
When Zangetsu steps past Kenpachi, it visualizes the clash of opposing spiritual states, yin and yang, a pure Shinigami clashing with a hybrid Shinigami, who is using dormant Quincy power. Our second piece of symbolism comes from their final clash. Look at the visual language of their spirit energy.
Here he comes, Ichigo. But I will finish this in one single blow.
Now, in Buddhist philosophy, purple represents attachment, ego, and aggressive passion. Gold represents purity, spiritual liberation, and ultimate enlightenment, which leads into the third piece of symbolism I noticed that directly ties back to the most recent episode. If their first clash together was discovery of both of them realizing the importance of their Zanpakuto spirit, with Ichigo gaining cooperation of his,
I'm putting all of my power in your hands, Zangetsu. Do with me what you will.
And Kenpachi finally recognizing the importance of not knowing the name of his Zanpakuto,
My sword. I've ignored you for such a long time.
then when you look at the recent episode of the Thousand Year Blood War arc, it brings home that they both completed their journeys together. And you can see this, I believe, through the order of the episode, with the best of Ichigo's Horn of Salvation playing out right after seeing the debut of Kenpachi's Bankai. The Blade is Me is Ichigo's moment. However, in the shadow of that is Kenpachi's battle against Unohana to reconnect him with his true self that he had been suppressing. Ichigo had everything stripped away, and he was taken to reconnect with his true self at the Royal Palace. Kenpachi, on the other hand, was taken to the Mukin, which is connected to Naraka by Unohana. Inside of the Mukin, Kenpachi and Unohana battled, which that battle is a reflection of the reviving hell in Naraka, where the damned do battle over and over again with a selection of weapons until they burn off all of their bad karma.
I keep blacking out. When I come to, I'm right back in the middle of the fight where it left off.
One trains in the Royal Palace, the highest of the high. The other trains in the Mukin, the lowest of the low. Ichigo has Go Ryatsu. Kenpachi has Go Ryatsu now. Heck, even Ichigo's connection to Nell. With Kenpachi, remember, he cleaned up Neutra. That's Nell's hater. What in the world is Kubo trying to show us with his connection to Ichigo and Kenpachi? Well, in my opinion, Ichigo embodies the archetype of the Buddha, while Kenpachi embodies the archetype of the Mara, a demon king of desire, conflict, and primal instinct. Now, take a look at the black marks on Kenpachi's face while in Bankai. They directly mirror the Jigakucho, the hell butterfly. In Buddhism, the butterfly guides a soul through the cycle of reincarnation. We have seen those distinct black line patterns across high-tier spiritual entities before. Saizo Poro, Ukiura Sanguda Atapa form, Horn of Salvation Ichigo, high-level Kido incantations from Inside Kutetsu, and the tribal markings of Kukaku Shiba.
The sound of flying arrows! Prado 63! Ride ho-ho!
The Shiba clan has some of the highest natural attunements to Kido. Their family is so important that even when exiled from noble status, Squad Zero still needed them to go back home to the royal palace. This positioning and Ichigo's connection to the Buddha plays into why their family carries dual elemental affinities for fire and water. Historically, the founder of the Shiba clan in the past was the only noble leader who attempted to reach out to the Soul King rather than mutilate him. While the other four families seized control of the cycle of souls to close off hell and set up this artificial system of immortality, the Shiba ancestor chose to take moral accountability for the balance of life and death. Their choice reflects the central theme of Bleach, conquering the existential fear of death, which ties into why I believe their family has dual natures of water and fire. In Buddhist tradition, the Buddha demonstrated his ultimate mastery over existence through the twin miracle, simultaneously emitting streams of fire and water from his body. This was to show his enlightenment. Ichigo descending from the Shiba bloodline connects him to this symbolism. However, on the Buddha's road to enlightenment beneath the Bodhi tree, the Buddha was confronted by the Mara and his three daughters, who unleashed every form of temptation and wrath to break his resolve.
He's finally here. I was getting tired of waiting.
Which brings us right back to Kenpachi and his connection to the Mara. It starts with his Zanpakuto. Nozarashi translates to weathered bones bleached in the barren field. In Japanese folklore, this connects to the Maido, which is a windswept underworld traversed by spirits before judgment, and the Sai no Kawara, a empty riverbed where departed souls stack stones. I do believe what Kubo's trying to show us here is a representation of the natural cycle where hell is not excluded. For example, in this case, you have Kenpachi, who represents the demon, the Mara, helping out Toshiro, who represents ice. If you know about Naraka, you know there are two sides to it. One is hot hell and one is cold hell. And then when you add Byakuya to the equation, now you have a representation of the Shinigami and nobles. They are all working in unison to take down the miracle, which is Gerard Valkyrie, a Quincy who wants to help bring the world back to one. That is what I believe Kubo is representing through Kenpachi, because on the other side of that, you have Ichigo and the Horn of Salvation, and Orihime, who can reject reality. Kenpachi, Toshiro, and Byakuya represent the potential of what the world could have been, while Ichigo is a culmination of all of the existences of the current state of the world, fighting for the potential of that future. The original sin has been committed already, so it will only be reductive to create a new sin to recreate a world that we have already moved on from. The Orihime, they reject that idea. Ichigo in this case is the Soul King, obtaining the support he never had through the Shiba. Rejecting the Almighty is rejecting regression and stagnation, while supporting Ichigo is allowing for opportunity and potential to come into existence. The symbolism of what Kenpachi, Toshiro, and Byakuya and Ichigo with Orihime represent ties right back to the ending of the Buddha and the Mara. You see, when the Mara couldn't tempt the Buddha with his three daughters, the Buddha decided to show the Mara his enlightenment by inviting him to sit next to him. The Mara is just another side of the Buddha. He's just another side of himself. So he pulled up a cushioned seat, he poured the Mara a cup of tea, and they sat next to each other and rejoiced. That is Ichigo and Kenpachi.
I'm here to help you.
And I never thought the day would come that I'd need help from you, Ichigo.
Now, I'm not sure if anyone has ever noticed these connections with Kenpachi and Ichigo before, but even if you remove the symbolism, I just always have felt that because of Ikaku and Ichigo's initial encounter, and just the overall relationship that Ichigo seems to have with Squad 11, that post 1000-Year Blood War, just kind of how they made Naruto at the end of Naruto kind of go back through the academy so he can become the Hokage, that'll be really cool if they made Ichigo like a vice captain on Squad 11, or even a seated officer, but that's my own fan fiction. However, what's not fan fiction is this last connection I held off on. I wanted to pose it more as an ending question instead of looking for a definitive answer within the source, and figure we can come up with something together. But when you think about it, in this scenario, right, with Kenpachi and Ichigo being related to the Buddha and the Mara, the only one that's enlightened in this situation is technically the Buddha and Ichigo. Just like with Ichigo, don't you think there should be a period where Kenpachi is using a false Bankai? And I think we might already have an answer looking back at how Kenpachi's Bankai was activated. There could be a third stage to this power that Kenpachi has, and if you look at it, it connects back to what I said with the Mara. He had three daughters, and when you look at Yachiru's fight against General Lee, remember, she was accompanied by two other beasts, technically making three Zanpakuto spirits for Kenpachi. Now, the Mara's daughters all embodied a different poison in Buddhism. First, you had the daughter who embodied aversion and boredom. Sometimes Kenpachi takes on that personality when he can't find a worthy fight. But the second daughter that he had, she was into intoxication and drunkenness. Now, what's really interesting is that when Yachiru disappears, it's not when Kenpachi first learns the name of his Zanpakuto Nozarashi, it's when he tells Nozarashi to drink. If you think about Yachiru's role to Kenpachi, she rides on his shoulder, and it has been moments throughout the series, including up until when Kenpachi cut down Grimmy's asteroid or meteor, that he told Yachiru to watch. I believe that Yachiru functions somewhat like a cup. She's a part of his Bankai, and as a cup, she fills up with all of the things that Kenpachi needs to cut, which is everything. And like an emissary, she brings that back to the larger portion of the Bankai. Now, Kubo has already revealed, and someone made this comment on TikTok on a video that I had talking about this on a smaller scale, that Kubo had hinted at one portion of his Zanpakuto spirit being an adult, which is Nozarashi. But we still obviously have Yachiru. I believe that there is a third spirit, a part of that trio. That third spirit is what Kenpachi becomes when Yaturu says that she releases his power. Yaturu is just the name of Unohana, and there is a vision that Kenpachi has of Unohana, and I believe that the demon that Kenpachi is becoming, this power that Yaturu is releasing, is just the embodiment of Unohana and how Kenpachi saw her, this vision that he held onto of Unohana. The third female spirit of his Zanpakuto doesn't have to speak at all. Like I said, it can literally just become what he is, which is a demon. That's my little hypothesis slash theory. I do believe that he is using a false Bankai, and I think that's somewhat alluded to by the way it's activated. When Yaturu says Bankai, you hear the double voices. And it also looks very Unohana-ish. The face, the fish lens, it's creepy and it's scary, but at the same time, I think it just fits. Just imagine how demonic that would be. Two Zanpakuto spirits summoning the forces of the third spirit that doesn't speak. It just becomes the embodiment of the user, which is Kenpachi, and he turns into a demon. I think that fits. That's just my hypothesis. I would love to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. My name is Zealot. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, turn on alerts so you don't miss my next upload. Peace out till next time.